Hey everybody, it's Shuko here with another guide for you today. Today we're going to be talking about DAT modifications in Final Fantasy XI. There's a couple ways that you can go about this, and it can get rather advanced, and some things are actually kind of simple. So we're going to start from the simplest things, and then kind of end near the more advanced end of things. Now, not everything that I'm going to show you today requires the Windower, and that's important to know. And I will specify which ones do and which ones do not. And some things that I'm going to show you involve unofficial Windower add-ons as well. So I'll try to specify that as we go along. But first, let's talk about why would you want to change the DATs in Final Fantasy XI? And it's a good question, to be honest. The thing I would point out is there's certain things that they haven't modified for a long time, such as enfeeblement icons or buff icons, or even a lot of maps and things may give some basic data, but they wouldn't give a lot of relevant data. Another thing that some people like to do is actually modify the graphics of the game. Whether upscaling technology or complete swap outs. So there's a lot of reasons you may want to, but essentially what it would do is increase the quality of the game for you. And that really depends on the quality of the computer you're using and a few other steps that you want to make sure you would take right, because if you mess up, you will break the game and you would have to do a check file restore or possibly even reinstall the entire game. So that being said, proceed with caution, but I'm going to explain the steps. So that being said, let's switch over to Shuko so I can show some basic steps before we get started. So I'm on Shuko right now, and I'm in Morimar Basalt Fields. And I've chosen this area because there is no map markers on here unnaturally. And you'll see that there's a couple blue gems. Those are normally within the map, even without any additional conditions. Those are waypoint markers. And they're useful. And then you also see the crystal. Those things are in the normal user interface. But essentially, there are many of talented players throughout the years that have marked these maps, and you'll see those on BG Wiki, for instance, and certain other fan sites. And other kind souls actually translated a lot of those maps into map data format, and those can be swapped out. Now, another thing I would point out is certain spells like protect and whatnot have certain icons. And some things share icons, so it can be hard to tell. But with an updated icon pack, you would actually start to see everything with unique icons, such as like Doom and Curse would not share an icon anymore, and you would know if you're doomed right as soon as it hits you, even before the counter started counting down. So that being said, I want to show you a little bit of This is what it looks like without the icon pack, right? And this is what it would look like without the map pack. Now, let's move in one of my files here to show you. I brought in a little website, and I would like to show you a couple links. And I will put all of these links into the description. But to start with, let's start with FFXI Vision. Now, this is on GitHub, and it hasn't been updated in a long time, as you can see with the 5 years marker. So if you just use this, it will break your game. When you try to max out your chat bar, it would crash. So this does require the next tool I'm going to talk about, but we'll talk a little bit more about this one. So this is the map pack. And this winds up replacing a lot of the maps with the updated maps that are on websites and whatnot. And it's very useful in more ways than I can actually describe. But let's move to the next link here. And this one is called XI View. And this is the icon pack. Now, there's a lot of reasons that you would want to use this. And other than what I just described, it also updates the text as well and makes the text a lot easier to read. And there's a couple of other benefits that you would see to this. However, I will say that this and the map pack, anytime there's an update, certain maps will get overwritten with the same old data practically, and you may find yourself having to move this in, or sometimes some of these icons will break and it will wind up, if you try to re-upload these files, it'll start to crash your game, and you want to put the backup up. So that way, until like somebody updates it, like this has been updated 3 months ago. So that's the last time it broke. So it doesn't happen all the time. It happens every couple of months or so. Sometimes they'll add an ailment or something, or they'll change something about an ailment or whatever. So that's the two things you would want to keep track of for those. Now let's move over to the next tool that I want to talk about. Now, if you get a little queasy changing out, that's what I'm about to show you. One alternative to it is using XI Pivot. And what this does is it's like a swap out. It tells the game, oh, instead of using the DAT file from Final Fantasy XI's install, instead use this. Now it has some risks and it has some benefits. Even if 11 updates the files, Pivot would make sure that you load your icon pack regardless. Now the disadvantage being, if those files are updated and are crashing things for people, you wouldn't know. But this is also used for some other things too. And we're going to move over to the next thing I want to discuss. Now, we're not going to do a demo of this, but I wanted to bring it up because it's something that a lot of my friends are big fans of. So Ashen Bubs is a HD icon swap out for all the assets in the game practically. And he has it in X2 and X4 qualities. It's a pretty massive download. We're talking like over 20 gigs, like for the big one, if I recall. And you would have to use XI Pivot to tell it to swap to these. It doesn't work without it. Now, he has a very good video about this, and I will put the link in the description to that. And he also, demonstrating how to install it and everything. And since he made it and made a video about it, I figured it'd be an insult to describe it. But I did want to mention it because it is pretty good looking. Personally, myself, I wasn't amazingly fond of how my Hume specifically looked, but I thought Tarutaru's looked awesome. So you might want to give it a shot. It also changes like the text in the game when you level up or get a master level, and so on and so forth. The last thing I want to show you on the websites here would just be just a random DAT page. Now, back in the day, there used to be FFXI DATs, and tons of people would participate and make custom DATs for the stuff in the game. Now you really just kind of got to search around Google and you'll find a couple of assets that people make. And, it's really cool. You can walk around as an avatar. Only you would see this because it's loading on your local client. But it's a really neat thing to do. So I figured I'd bring it up. A lot of people, like I remember back in the day, I would load up Sotilus's wings. Or somebody's here's a little dot hack inspired. So what you would want to do with these, if you wanted to get them to work, is you would find the armor for the race that you play. And the DAT in like a tool like Altana View, which I can put a link for as well. And then once you know what DAT it is, you would swap the DAT out with this DAT file. And voila, it would show up on your computer. Now, we're going to avoid swapping out visual DATs for today. I just want to keep this guide focused on icon packs and map packs. But I figured since we're talking about DAT swapping today, that it would be a good time to bring it up. So, that said, let's download FFXI Vision. Let's download View. And let's show you how to put those on. So, Now that those are downloaded, I can pretty much close this. I'm going to bring over my Final Fantasy 11 install folder, which for me is in Program Files 86, Play Online, Square Enix, Final Fantasy 11. You'll know you're in the right place when you see ROMs. And then over here, I'm going to bring in my download for XI View. Now, you want to actually do Vision first. It's the older one. And you want the newer, updated, some of the files from View to come in over it. So we're actually going to go into Vision first. And you grab these 3 ROMs, or 5 ROMs rather. Copy. And paste. You're going to get a whole bunch of warnings from Windows being like, are you sure? Are you sure? Yes. 703 files. That's a lot of files. Do this for all current. Yes. Now it's moving all the FFXI Vision files into the install folder for Final Fantasy. It's overwriting them. So if this process doesn't work properly, it would actually break the game. So this one is yelling at me. It's saying we can't because it's open in game. And I'm going to guess it's the map of the zone I'm in. I would bet. I would bet it's the map of the zone I'm in. It's because I am running the game live. So this is something that can come up. So we're going to skip that file for now. And I bet you more and more is going to still show old data. Skip. Oh, a couple of them. Must be open in the RAM. Okay. You should do this while the game is uninstalled, but because we're making a video, I'm trying to show some of it. So some of these maps may not update, but I'll show you what it does either way. So now we're going to View, and I run on widescreen. Copy. Done. Okay. Back to game. Let's try to load a different zone. Let's see if we see anything different. Oh, there must be a pumpkin here. The pumpkin music is playing. Yeah, I got the message for it too. Okay. So first off, if you look at my mini map here, that actually loads the data from the game, and you'll see some additional things even here. So I actually know the data's already changed. I get a hint. But let's bring up the full map. Now, holy crap, there's a bunch of stuff here. Now, you'll see that there are still these markers for the bivouacs or the waypoints. But they got other stuff here. Show colonization reefs, lair reefs, where certain locusts are, timings of where walls are blocked. You'll see it can be quite a maze. And it'll even give you a legend up here at the top. And a lot of these maps have these kind of markers. But let's take a moment to go back to Morimar and see if that's still on an old map. I do love this. This is a good theme, though. Okay. So we're back in Morimar. And and it's still an old map. So because I had the game open, Windows wouldn't let me swap out the files that were live in the game. So make sure your game's closed before you do what I showed you. But otherwise, it didn't crash the game. But to make sure it fully installs properly, you would want to make sure the game is closed. Now let's try one other zone real quick. Let's say Khmer Drift. And I actually have one more zone I'm going to point out too, actually, after this, just to kind of show you how useful these can be. Oh, nope, Khmer did not update properly. So that says a lot about making sure that you install it properly by making sure the game is uninstalled or off. But Cellar Ruan Gardens. This is a massive zone. Absolutely massive zone. We call this sky, but that's a separate conversation. I just want to show you the map. Markers, locations, guides of how to get to which specific endgame monster, links to other zones. Oh yes, this is an endgame zone. But I promise that these maps are super useful and worth your time installing. So that being said, we also talked about icon packs, didn't we? So let's try to do a quick little demo of those, shall we? Now, one thing I would point out is I'm just going to get a couple of trust out so that way you can see the difference of what I mean. Going to use my trust add-on that I've explained in other guides. You can do it with //true and save presets. Now, some of you have watched a lot of my videos. You'll see the party setup to the right. That's an add-on called XIV Party. And that shows the icons from XIView already. So essentially what I did is I almost changed it with the icons from that, but XIView has actually existed longer than XIV Party. So let's take a look. Get a couple of buffs on me. And all of a sudden you see lots of colors and things differently. I can clearly see that's a regen. That roll doesn't just look like any generic roll, it's red. So that tells me it's a chaos roll. The song is blue, that tells me it's a march. And there are many, many more, including enfeeblements and everything else. So it almost will seem like you're playing a different game at first, but I assure you, you start to recognize them and you'll be faster and snappier about understanding what's happening to you in battle. Now, both of these add-ons can be used without the windower even. So even if you're scared of using the windower, you would be able to get them to work. Now that we did a little bit of a demo there, let's switch back. So we pretty much talked about why you would want to change out DATs today. And I hope I've given you a good reason as to why without drawing it out too long. I hope by seeing some of this, you can see that taking a little bit of time to tweak your setup can make playing the game a lot less frustrating, especially in a game as massive as this one. On that note, I'm sorry it's been such a long time since the last video. There's been a lot going on, but I still love this game, and I'm going to still try to make content for it as I can. And I still, plan to do other things like streaming, etc. So if you've made it this long, be sure to give me a like, and I hope to see everybody next time. Take care.